Crittenden's going to sub in.
Perfect.
She has an ounce of experience. Big dig
she
there.
Can do it all.
Dug again by Hens, who's under it. Outside, Lichtman throws it to the corner. Betania right there. Overhead, Shayla tries the same throw move, doesn't work either.
Germany, Switzerland, and France, and it's showing out here on the court tonight.
Low down the line, Hens with a dig. Hens again with the right hand. One more? Yes, indeed.
Wait, it's going to take more than highlight plays to go from the middle of the Big West back to Big West champs. The topic today is digging and defense. What can we learn from the best in the game so that we can dig more balls? I want to focus in on two things. Using an angle to dig, and that the natural instinct to put arms together into a platform is the best way to dig the most balls over time. Secondly, the importance of base position acting independent of our block. That getting stopped close to our base position where most balls go is more important than chasing holes and seams. This is a GMS course video on a forearm dig. Their numbers show that we perform the forearm dig 75% of the time, so it's important that we do the most efficient thing we possibly can. While every defender moves a little different, we can see all from the best diggers, they are masters at putting the correct angle on the ball. The easiest way to have a consistent angle is to have one angle across our entire platform. By having a good angle, we hope to reduce the need to time the ball up with a scoop or a push through the ball. Just like with passing, any unnecessary movement creates things that can go wrong. So over time, it's best to stay simple with our movements. Of course, we can fly around the court and try to time it perfectly, but if we want to be good over time, a simple angle is the best way. Obviously, Mary Lake here is not digging a real attack. Volleyball happens. We'll have to do some different moves, but at the end of the day, can we be as simple as possible given the situation and form an angle to get this ball high and off the net? Before we spend some time watching other liberos dig, here's a clip from a GMS Live where Eric Sullivan talks about the principles of defense. He mentions kids are going to look a little different, but it really has to follow these principles to be the best over time.
If we, we'll get in and work on it. We have some principles and fundamentals. We want the movements to begin with a step, and so kids aren't just kind of flailing to the ground. Most of the time we're looking to play over a lead leg or a knee. You don't want to be going the opposite way. And, just the very simple principle of getting your arms out early and creating an angle and letting the ball kind of work off your platform. I think all hold true, but everybody's going to be a little bit different. And so for me, when we get kids in the gym, if they've got some deficiencies, I try to work within how they play the game and clean some of that stuff up. I don't think there's ever this, hey, it has to look like this for it to be good. We'll just think it's got to kind of all be within those principles to some degree, because we know if you're doing those things that, over time it's going to be more helpful.
Two liberos come to mind when I think of ones that make lots of movement, the opposite of being very stopped and simple. Morgan Hentz and Zoe Fleck. Yet when you slow down their digs, they form their platform in the middle and then put an angle on it. I note that especially when the ball is being attacked with lots of pace at them, there's no move to attack the ball or go through the ball or attempt to scoop the ball, but to just put an angle on it, where sometimes a platform will even break in the opposite direction instead of going through it. Here's Fleck defending against the fast in-system attack against Louisville, and yet she forms her platform right in the middle of her body and then has time to swing it outside and maintain that angle. Here's Elena Scott defending against first-team All-American right side Courtney Bizzario, yet still has time to form the platform in the middle and put it onto the ball. When we go through the ball, we introduce the need to time the impact point with the perfect moment our arms are attacking, that they're in the correct angle for this ball to go where we want it. If we can step to the ball and form an angle, we reduce our need to time this ball, and we are presenting something at least more constant than going through it. Here's Benbow from San Diego. We see the same thing, form platform, get it under the ball, and appears to be no effort to dig through it. Here's Ogilvy from Stanford. She's forming platform in the midline, getting it in line with the ball, and letting the ball work off it. Look how on this one, Ogilvy has her platform in the middle and yet has time to move it to the side. Will we get our platform on it every time? No. Will we misdig some? Yes. But over time, this is the most helpful. Lexi Rodriguez from Nebraska takes the most time to put her platform together, but still forms it in the middle. Lexi breaks her platform a lot, but not till after the dig and just on really big attacks. Minnesota's Cece McGraw, same thing. Forms in the middle, put platform on the ball, and even breaks away from the ball because of the pace, accomplishing the same thing Lexi does by breaking it. Here's the leaders list for the 2022 season for digs per set. Hope Matchner from Iona, who led by over an entire dig with 7.16. The unique thing about her is that she actually just starts with her platform together in the middle. Here's some clips of her defending against no slouch of a team, University of Georgia. She again just tries to put her platform on the ball with no attempt to dig through it. It is my thought that Campbell Jensen from Irvine was the best libero in terms of digging in our conference. Here she is digging some of our attacks by using an angle. She puts an angle that will put the ball up in the air and lets the ball work off it. Doesn't look like there's any scoop move to go through the ball or attack it. I see hands together to make a platform and then getting it under the ball. I'll end with one of my favorite liberos, Kayla Banworth. When you watch her, she makes it look very simple. Stopped on the ground, simple angle on the ball. I think that the beauty in heat maps is that they track where the balls actually go. Regardless of where the block is or if the block touches it, we know where all the balls go. Something we must answer in creating a defensive system is where we place our defenders and then where we allow them to move. Lots of balls end up going into the, quote, shadow of the block. So if we want to be good over time, we should stay pretty close to our base. Blockers make dynamic moves and can close a seam up last second. When we watch our own block to determine our move, we lose sight of the most important thing, the hitter. In these couple clips from BYU, you can see middle back is very disciplined in staying around that box. Feet on the ground, ready, expecting, and even trusting that the block will touch it. They are planted in the ground, stopped, balanced, but ready to move. Intently watching, reading, using vision to pick up what the attacker is doing so we can make the appropriate move.
You mentioned not worrying about chasing holes right at the beginning of this blocking conversation. Can you maybe Danny from a back row defensive standpoint and Dan from a blocking standpoint, can we discuss that quick? Because at our clinics, we try to get people away from this, like let's not worry so much about funneling balls or chasing holes with our block. Let's get over the net. Let's be in the hitter space. And I think it's a pretty interesting conversation because it's really a traditional concept that a lot of people are still doing. And it's hard for people to wrap their heads around the fact that a lot of balls go in the shadow of the block, or a lot of balls are going to land. It's random. The game's random. And if we're going to be running all over the place, chasing holes and chasing seams, we're not going to be as effective as if we're stopped and balanced and putting ourselves in a spot where lots of balls are going. So maybe from a back row and a front row perspective, can you guys speak to how you're organizing that?
Well, I think from the back row, it's a lot about just trusting that our block is going to touch it. So
I cut you off there, but Dave, go back to that one. Oh, sorry.
I was about to point that one out too.
Yeah, I interrupted you, but this is what we're talking about for all of you that are listening. If you can see here, let's pause right here, get over. And so there's 3 feet in between these blockers, and we're still getting a touch, or she's still getting a touch and still making a play on the ball. She's reaching a little bit to her left, so she's not straight over the net. But this is what we're talking about. Why didn't that hitter hit that seam? And that's the question I have. Why didn't she hit there? And so, sorry, I interrupted you, Danny, but this is kind of the conversation that we'd like to have.
No, I think it's good. And it's something that we really harp on, that, we want to be aggressive. But I think the back row correlating, we had a really hard time with this of moving too much, and we've had to work very, very hard of getting our players to be stopped and still so we can trust our block, that the block's going to get a touch of some kind, and that we need to be able to make a play on the ball. So usually if there's a wide open seam and the hitter hits it, we're not going to dig it anyways. So we want to dig the ones that we can.
High probability balls, yeah.
Here's a couple plays where the ball ends up in the quote shadow of the block, like Mike talked about. This first one was the most egregious during the spring match. We step into the seam with a late middle, but since we want our blockers to be aggressive, we get a touch that sends the ball right back where our base is. And that's the same question, why didn't this hitter hit the seam? Here we step down into the right on our red, yet when we watch the hitter, there's really not anything to indicate that this hitter is hitting angle, and goes for the line shot. Ideally here, we're probably in base and ready to chase down a good block touch. If anything, we want to go in the direction that the hitter is going. Here we have a well-formed block in front of us. The problem with using this well-formed block to determine our move forward to pick up the tip is that the hitter can still put this ball behind us. The hitter can also rip a high hand, and we need to be able to react to play this ball off the block. The notion of well-formed block I can't be hit at may be true, but I can be tipped or thrown at, and it can very well deflect off the block to me. And given that, we are much better just watching the attacker versus our block. Here's a clip of Jarrett Elliott making the point that we probably are better off over time just being around the same spot versus making all these reads. It could be different with very special players, but over time, with most players, staying pretty close to base is probably the better move.
I think the other component of that is, if Eric talks about, if you see a seam, sequential pattern I talked about earlier, but balls are set inside or outside, high or low, or on or off. And young players don't see that a lot. So that seam can vary by 5 or 10 feet in terms of where their spots are. So you've got to have a lot of trust that they're seeing where that depth is and where the attacker's feet are getting to those zones based on where that set is to be able to give them the shots. And I think over a period of time, you would bet that by just being in the same spot over a period of time is going to be more consistent than someone reading, right? If I have 6 or 3 Eric Sojis out there playing defense, yeah, they might have a lot more flexibility to be able to go see it and do that. But that's a unique type of player.
And if you are going to shift into if you are going to have a green light and you are going to move into a seam, or you are going to make some adjustments out of base organically, I'm assuming we would all like that kid to get there as soon as can, get stopped, get balanced, so that they can come back if they need to.
And the way I talk to about our kids is there should be some little pause of like, hey, I'm settled and stopped before contact. And I think when you can get comfortable doing that, you may not feel like you're working as hard as you think you should be working, but the game's going to slow down a little bit.
Highlight plays might win you a point here and there, but to win a volleyball match and have a championship season, you need to be good over time. Here's a few clips going over BYU's defense, which was second in the country for opponent hitting percentage in 21. They are known for their defensive positioning and being very consistent in their base. Luca also talks about being in a default base 90% of the time. If we're as physical as we think we are, we can trust we will touch the ball with their block and dig these touches versus running around and trying to fill seams.
This question a lot, and we can talk about this after I show another little video clip, but how do you answer this question? Because we get it a lot, you probably get it a lot. The defender asks, well, shouldn't I move because the block isn't there, or there's a hole in the block, or there's only one blocker, or the hitter's huge, right? How do you answer those types of questions?
Yeah, the last thing for us to go up, because we do swing block, is going to be the block. So sure, the block's not there till it is, and it's going to be the very last thing that gets thrown across the net. So we're touching quite a few balls, over 50% around of the balls of our opponents are going to hit our block. So our defenders need to know that, and we're working on that right now, being able to see what maybe you can call the second line of attack. So the first line is off the hand. If it doesn't hit the block, then what you see is what you know, and go dig the ball. But a lot of balls in our gym are going to hit our block in practice and opponents. And so they've got to be able to dig that ball off the second line of attack, which is off a block. So we're not chasing holes. We're not guessing. We're reacting to what we see and what we know, and using the appropriate defensive skill to dig the ball up.
Just another thing, going off header a little bit. When we are studying the opponents, we're really thinking of okay, what is something that certain player does so exceptionally well, and she or he's so efficient at it that we have to make an adjustment with our defensive setup. So I think we spent with USA or NC State, or I'm bet everything I have with BYU, that they spend more than 90% of the time in their default. That means middle is going to stay middle, and right back is going to be a certain spot, and left back is going to be a certain spot. And they will adjust and adapt only when they know this girl will tip here, so we're going to play for a tip. Or this girl, she can only hit cross or sharp cross, and maybe in line with the corner, so we make an adjustment with our middle. But otherwise, we're going to really fight not to do that and making sure that we're stopped and we're reading and making defensive moves based on our read. But we would adjust only when somebody, again, is doing something exceptionally well. That means a lot and super efficient. That's when you need to make an adjustment. Otherwise, you're going to lose quite a few points. So that's just...
If we put a big emphasis on being stopped and balanced and a more consistent base that acts independent of our block, and then we use a simple angle, we increase the chances that we can be good over time. And we combine that with our physicality that lets us strike back and terminate, man, we can unlock something that brings the Big West Championship back to San Luis Obispo.